Following a terrible road trip, the Mariners have to try and get back on track against two of the best teams in the American League. We're talking all about this big homestand coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Thursday, June 27th, 2024. This is Tony Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So because tomorrow's Fan Fiction Friday and we'll be focused all on your trade ideas, we're going to spend today's show talking all about this big homestand coming up for the Mariners. We'll tell you who the toughest matchup is, what an acceptable homestand looks like, and a whole lot more. But before we get into all that, shout out to our title sponsor today, Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check Booking.com for your stay today. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. The link is in the description, and you can sign up for a free 7-day trial. So let's talk about who the toughest matchup is on this upcoming homestand. Twins coming in first, starting tomorrow. Then after that, it's the Baltimore Orioles. And then after that is the Toronto Blue Jays. And to me, it's the Orioles. The Orioles, to me, are still the best team in the American League, even though that's not what the records say at the moment. I think they're the most talented roster in the American League. Their lineup is stacked. They obviously have some great pitching on the high end. The rotation as a whole is a little bit shaky right now because of all the injuries they've suffered. Bradish, Means, Tyler Wells, etc. Kramer most recently. But they still have some really nice arms in that rotation, and the bullpen's been really good as well this season. Now, you might be catching them at the right time because, like you, they're 4-6 over their last 10. You know, they obviously most recently got swept by the Houston Astros. Or maybe on the flip side, you can make the counter argument that you're actually catching them at the wrong time because, look, they're not going to be that mediocre for that long, you would think. And maybe this is now you're kind of catching them at the turning point for them coming out of that slump. So we'll see. This is a team, though, that causes a lot of problems for the Mariners on paper. They're super athletic. They can pitch. They can hit home runs. They can do damage to you in a bunch of different ways. Do you agree, or do you think maybe the Twins or the Blue Jays here are the toughest matchup for the Mariners?
It's probably Baltimore. They're the best team. Like you said, it kind of depends on when you catch them. How the pitching matchups are going to line up for you, either in their favor or not in your favor. It's going to be a difficult matchup anytime you play the Orioles. Anywhere you play them, it's not like they're specifically built just for Camden Yards or anything like that. They travel. Their brand of baseball travels. You have to see how lucky you get on the starting pitching front. If you get both Burns and Rodriguez in the same series, but it's going to be tough sledding. If you can avoid both of them, that obviously helps quite a bit. So, it's Baltimore. That's, no disrespect to Minnesota. They're obviously a difficult matchup for Seattle as well. And I believe they will be throwing both Lopez and Ober in that series this weekend.
And Ryan.
So you're going to, it's going to be a battle this weekend, certainly. But I do think Baltimore is just the better team. I think they're the more difficult matchup. I think they present more issues for Seattle, but this is not a easy homestand by any stretch. So we'll have to see what the pitching matchups look like when we get to the Orioles series here in 4 or 5 days. But it's sure to be a difficult matchup either way.
Generally speaking, I also feel like we might be overlooking the Blue Jays a little bit here, not in terms of being the toughest matchup, because again, you're comparing them to the Orioles and the Twins, who are two of the best teams in the American League. But this Blue Jays team, like I talked about yesterday, they're going to be motivated. This is a team that's trying to save its season. They've seen the rumors. They've seen, all the stuff going around about Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette, and the Blue Jays might end up blowing it up at the deadline. This is going to be a big, big series for them. Obviously, a lot of Blue Jays fans are going to be in attendance. Energy is going to be high. Energy is going to be in the Blue Jays' favor. Now, the Mariners have handled them very well over the last couple of years in Seattle, but that's a team that, look, even though that they've been pretty mediocre for most of the season, they can pitch. They have some highly athletic dudes like Dalton Varsho, and obviously, Vlad's having a great year, and Bo's always dangerous, even though he's having a difficult season right now. That's still a very talented roster that can give you some issues. So definitely don't want to overlook Toronto. And you want to be able to finish this homestand on a high note before you go out on the road for the last time before the All-Star break. So want to try and build some momentum into the All-Star break, and it really it starts with Minnesota tomorrow, but it's certainly like you need to be able to at least finish the homestand on a good note. So you need to handle the Blue Jays. You need to take care of business against the Blue Jays, who, again, as talented as they are, as many problems as they can cause for you, that's a team that you should beat. That's a team that you should win a series against. But this is going to be a really, really big test for the Mariners, and it's not coming at a great time considering how the road trip went, but nothing you can do about that. So you got to get back on the horse here and get out of this little slump that you've been in, and that really falls on the offense, right? We know what the home road splits are for the pitching. Pitching has been significantly better at T-Mobile Park, somewhat for obvious reasons, of course, because of how pitcher friendly the ballpark is. But you got to be able to score runs. If you're going to beat the Orioles, if you're going to beat the Twins, they're going to get theirs. So you got to get yours. And that has, as we all know, hasn't necessarily been a guarantee on a night-to-night basis when it comes to the Mariners offense. So they got to get things going, and that really comes down to the core. And, you might have a game or two here where the back end of your lineup is able to produce and pick up the slack, but for the most part, this is going to fall on JP, this is going to fall on Julio, this is going to fall on Cal Raleigh. Like, those three guys, they got to carry you in series like this. It's a big homestand for those three guys for sure. All right, so we're going to talk about what an acceptable homestand would look like for the Mariners overall, and get into some of the more nitty gritty of this homestand and the upcoming next two series, specifically with what the Mariners are going to do with the rotation and more in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Tax Network USA and eBay Motors. Here on Locked On Mariners, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000. That's 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/locked on. See the link in this episode description. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Again, that is ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. You can catch the M's and the Twins starting tomorrow night and through the weekend on the Mariners hometown broadcast of SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners. So, Colby, we just talked about who the toughest matchups are on this homestand. Now, what would an acceptable homestand look like to you in terms of record, in terms of how the Mariners look as a whole over these next 9 games.
Yeah, obviously you want to have a winning homestand and you want to go 5-4, but you consider the matchups and you consider how you looked, on the road there. 4-5 is fine. Like you'll survive that. But I do think you have to find a way to, start to win some series against some good teams, and start to play good ball. So it's the last. Is it? Yeah, I think it's the last homestand before the All
Yep,
Star break.
it is.
So
Yep.
you want to end your first half at home on a high note, and they played really good ball there. So I think you want 5-4. If you're 4-5, like not what you want, but it's within the range of acceptable outcomes. I think if you start going 3-6, if you lose all 3 series like you did on the road, then I think it's hard not to paint a picture of a team that's kind of collapsing a little bit early after a really good first couple months. So I do think that it's important to be around 500 at least on this homestand. It would be great if you could win all 3 series, but you take what you can get. You're facing 3 really dangerous opponents all in a row. You don't really know who's your number 5 starter right now. You don't even know if you're going to use the number 5 starter on this homestand. So it is a bit of a tricky situation to maneuver. And obviously your bullpen is beaten up pretty good, and we don't know how Munoz is feeling. So there's a lot of questions surrounding this ball club right now. So if they could just find a way to go around 500, I think that's pretty acceptable. If they go 6-3, I think that's a great homestand. So I'm looking 4-5, 5-4. I think is what's reasonable to expect.
So you mentioned the number 5 issue, the Brian Wu spot. The Mariners are going to have to tackle here in the next few days. We touched upon this a little bit yesterday, but how do you think they're going to approach that? Do you think they're going to start Emerson Hancock on Sunday? That's when Wu's spot would fall. Or do you think they will, make use of today's off day and just start Luis Castillo on normal rest on Sunday, skipping that number 5 spot, essentially just going with a 4-man rotation this turn through the rotation and pushing that number 5 spot, the Wu spot, to, I believe, the second game of the Blue Jays series. Now, Hancock suffered a back issue, had to leave his last start down in Tacoma early because of a back issue. But it seems like that's not really much of a long-term thing there. I believe that he's expected to make a start on Saturday. So you can easily push him back a day, start him on Sunday against Minnesota if you want to. Or you could even, if you wanted to, you could move Bryce Miller to the Sunday start and just start Hancock on the Saturday game. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, so do you think we're going to see Hancock this weekend, or maybe that Blue Jays series instead?
Yeah, tough to say. They could wait and see how the first 2 games go against Minnesota, kind of like they did against Chicago earlier this month. So that is a possibility there. It's an interesting question because the Mariners have been very careful with even their veteran arms, trying to make sure that they are healthy and they're going to be available in August and September. So, giving them an extra day's rest every chance you can get is a good thing. And the way the schedule is breaking down right now, the Mariners are going to have be able to give a couple guys a couple starts with extra days rest before the All-Star break. So it's really, do we want to keep Castillo in rotation now, and then maybe we can give him that extra day on his next start because of the off day that we have, or do we want to, just keep him in line, keep him where he's at right now, start to, kind of prep like he's got the extra day. Because in his last start, he didn't go over 100 pitches or anything like that. So it's not like they were pushing him with the idea that like, oh, well, he's got the extra day, so, we can go 110 here or whatever. So it's a difficult situation for Scott to be in. You really want to weigh long-term versus short-term reward because, right now you want to start winning games. You want to start, turning around the ship, so to speak. But also, you don't want to, ask more of Castillo than you have to because you want that guy to be healthy. And it's not just Castillo, obviously. If you're moving Castillo up, everybody else goes up too. So you're moving up multiple guys. Now there's the off day on Monday as well, which does help. So,
Right.
it's a really tough situation. My guess is that I would guess that Hancock doesn't start on Sunday. I think they just move everybody up, and then Hancock will get the next time the number 5 spot comes through the rotation. I think he'll face Toronto.
The other element to this, though, is that if you don't move everyone up, you would then have Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert lined up to face the Orioles. Which, again, we think that's the toughest matchup of this entire homestand. It's one of the best teams in baseball, arguably the best team in the American League. It's kind of a similar situation here to when you face Texas and how you kind of arrange your rotation to line up where your big three face Texas in all three of those games. Do you want your big three to face Baltimore because of how dangerous that lineup is?
Right. I don't know. I'm not sure about that because, Baltimore is not really a team you're chasing per se, right? Or it's not a team that is chasing you necessarily either. I do think that the last time they did that, it was nice to be able to land your big three against Texas like that. I think that was a nice bonus. But I think that was just more about like, hey, we've secured the White Sox sweep, so why not we secured the White Sox series, so why not just throw everybody out there and we'll take our chances on that fourth game and then just give these guys an extra day's rest just because we have an opportunity. So I don't know. They want to push. I do think a big part of this, if you lose the first 2 in Minnesota, I think there's going to be a little bit of extra pressure to go to Castillo because you don't want to lose. You don't want to lose 9 of your last 12 games after you just built this huge lead in your division. So it's a bit of a difficult issue that he has to maneuver. Scott does, but I think the series in front of you is the most important one. And so I think that, you just kind of see how Friday goes. You see maybe how Saturday's going, and then you kind of make your decision there. My guess is that Scott already and the team already know which direction they're going to go, but there's really no reason for them to tell us one way or another. So we'll see. I mean, I think Hancock's supposed to get the start tomorrow. Obviously, if he makes it in Tacoma, then we know what's happening. Right.
I mean, they could technically go to Jonathan Diaz, but I don't know when he last started. I don't know where he is right now in terms of how many days he's had off between starts. So,
right. So, we'll have to wait and see. But my gut is that they just move Castillo up to Sunday. That would be what I would put my money on right now. I don't have any inside info on that.
And then you're still lined up pretty well for the Orioles series because you're going Kirby, you're going Gilbert, then you're going Miller in that series.
Right.
And obviously Bryce Miller has been significantly better at T-Mobile Park than he's been on the road this year. So you feel pretty good about that.
Right. I think that's the way they go.
Yeah. So we'll see what they do, but I think here in the next day or two before they even make it official, we'll kind of have a pretty good idea based on if Hancock makes a start here in the next couple of days or not. All right, so let's dive a little bit more into the first series of this homestand. Minnesota Twins coming to T-Mobile Park tomorrow. You can catch all the action on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. We're going to get into the pitching matchups, all that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is once again brought to you by Booking.com as well as LinkedIn. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, I'm talking about your rival cities. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. Even a Mariners fan can have a great time down in Houston, whether you're watching Cal Raleigh hit one into the Crawford boxes or chowing down on some authentic Texas barbecue. Maybe you're doing both at the same time. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or the Booking.com app. Are you struggling to close deals? B2B selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes, or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date, first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/locked on. That is linkedin.com/LOCKDON for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/locked on and get started. And you are listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Once again, you can catch the M's and the Twins this weekend on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners. And we're going to specifically focus on this Twins series because, again, tomorrow's Fan Fiction Friday. We're going to be focused all on your trades. We won't have the opportunity to talk about the series, so we're going to talk about it right now. Pitching matchups for this weekend are going to be fascinating. We got Logan Gilbert against Bailey Ober. Pablo Lopez, we know what he can do. We know what he's capable of. Not having a great year, though. Still striking out a lot of guys, which, look, that's going to lead to a lot of strikeouts. Naturally, that's just going to happen with Mariners. We can make that assumption pretty safely, I would think. He's going up against Bryce Miller on Saturday. And then Sunday, it's Joe Ryan against... We'll see, right? We just talked about it. Is it going to be Hancock? Is it going to be Castillo? Who knows? So what are your thoughts overall on this Twins ball club, these pitching matchups here, Colby?
Yeah, they're tough. Lopez is coming off a start where he struck out 14 guys, kind of had the best start of his season. So obviously, he may be starting to throw the ball better. Ober is just difficult because he throws 93, 94, but it's with that elite extension. So like you get what look like really hittable fastballs down the middle of the plate or elevated, and guys swing right through it or they're way behind on it just because of how far down the mound he gets. So it's interesting to see Gilbert and Ober, two pitchers with, elite extension, kind of try and outduel each other. Gilbert, much more, I don't know, I want to say evolved as a pitcher, but obviously he doesn't just rely so much on that fastball now. He mixes it up. It's a good mix with pretty good stuff, and he's coming off of a really good outing, obviously, in Miami. He'll have an extra day's rest as well, so hopefully he'll be ready to go. So that's an interesting one. Pablo versus Miller will be fascinating. Bryce has been really bad on the road recently. He's been really good at home recently, so you're at home. That's helpful. That's great. But, at some point, Bryce is going to have to show something other than a four-seamer to get guys out with. And, right now the Twins they're a very streaky team. They had a big 14-game win streak earlier this year. Then they lost 7 in a row. And then they lost 6 in a row just a week ago. And now they're starting to play a little bit better. And, Carlos Correa is having a great year right now. Royce Lewis is back. You didn't even see him last time. He's having a great year.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, how Miller handles those guys. There are a lot of righties in that lineup, which is, preferable. More righties than lefties is always better, particularly for Miller. So we'll see. We'll see how those matchups go. You feel like the Mariners have the advantage in game 1. You feel like the Twins probably still have the advantage in game 2. And then game 3 is a bit of a wild card because we don't know if it's Castillo or if it's going to be Hancock. And Ryan is a guy that the Mariners have gotten to once or twice. They've hit some home runs. He is, he will strike guys out, but he'll also leave pitches in the middle of the plate, and you can do damage against him. So the Twins starting pitching pretty underrated overall, but it's not having a spectacular season. Ober and Lopez have really struggled at times this year, and Ryan's been their best guy. So we'll see how it goes. But it's Minnesota is one of those teams that can pitch, and on Seattle still has better pitching than Minnesota, but Minnesota's starting pitching in particular is certainly no slouch. They can get after it, especially when they're throwing the ball well.
You're going to have to put the ball over the wall if you're going to win this series, because these three guys, they don't hand out free passes. Pablo Lopez 194 walks per 9, Bailey Ober 22 walks per 9, and then Joe Ryan 138 walks per 9. But they have posted some of the highest home run to fly ball rates in the league so far. Pablo Lopez, 5th highest home run to fly ball rate. That's a career high for him. 15.7% of his fly balls induced are going over the wall. Bailey Ober, 12.6% in that department, and Joe Ryan, 12.2% in that department. So they give up some home runs, and that's how you're going to have to kill them. Because what is your level of confidence that they're going to that this Mariners offense is going to string together hits? Because they're certainly not going to walk a ton against these guys.
Yeah. You also want to play from ahead, particularly late. Obviously, they have Duran.
Yeah.
They're
don't
want
to face him.
No. They're also calling up David Festa from the minors, who has an electric fastball. So, they're going to have some dudes in that bullpen. But, we do know that the middle of that bullpen is particularly susceptible to giving up some home runs as well. So you want to get on these guys early, put a run up on the board as quickly as you can, and then let your starting pitching pitch from a lead instead of, I got to be perfect here, otherwise we have no shot to win this game. So
David Festa is starting today, by the way. So
is he? Okay.
Yeah,
I thought they were throwing him in the bullpen.
No, he's as we're recording this, he's making his major league debut.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, congrats to David Festa.
So it's going to be a difficult series. You want to try and get off to a nice start on this homestand, because anything could happen in that Orioles series, and you really, really don't want to have to go into that Toronto series. Like, man, I really need to sweep to feel good about this homestand and to feel good, going into the last road trip of the first half of the season. So, especially with the way that this last road trip went, you really, really, really have to play good ball on this homestand. It's crucial. You want to be a division winner, you got to play like one. And this is one of those times, one of those instances where you have to play like you're a division winner. So we'll see what this team is made of. But that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Before we get out of here, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Dan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.